Broken heart. It was Christmas Day when my heart broke in a way I can never forget. My father called out to my brothers and sisters, told them to get dressed quickly, and said they were all going shopping. I rushed to the living room, excited, thinking this was the happiest day of the year. But then, in front of everyone, he looked at me coldly and said, "You stay at home. You're not going." I froze. The sound of my siblings' laughter as they hurried to put on their coats cut through me like a knife. They didn't even look back. One by one, they ran out of the house with him, leaving me standing alone by the door. I watched through the window as their car drove away. My father didn't even wave. The house went silent, and the Christmas lights suddenly felt like a cruel joke. Tears burned my eyes. I whispered, "Why me?" but no answer came. Only the echo of emptiness. My heart pounded with a pain I didn't know I could feel at 16 years old. And that was the moment I knew, this Christmas was going to be different from any I had ever known. But what happened after they left will shock you even more. My name is Emily. I'm 16 years old, and I'm speaking to you right here from Chicago, Illinois. Before I go deep into this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification button for more of my upcoming real-life stories. And tell me in the comments, what part of the country are you watching this from? I'd really love to know. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how everything led to that heartbreaking Christmas Day. Growing up, I always knew my family was complicated. My mother passed away when I was only 7, and from that day, something changed in my father. He became harder, colder, like the warmth inside him had gone away with her. I tried my best to make him proud, good grades, helping around the house, taking care of my younger siblings, but somehow, it was never enough. I remember nights when I stayed awake crying, wondering what I had done wrong to make him treat me differently. My siblings didn't see it. To them, he was the perfect father who took them out, bought them toys, and praised them for the smallest things. But me? Every time he looked at me, it was like he saw something he didn't want to see. One evening, about a week before Christmas, we were all in the living room decorating the tree. My siblings were laughing, hanging up ornaments, while I carefully placed the star at the top. Just when I thought maybe, just maybe, I was part of the joy, my father said loudly, "Emily, step down. Don't touch it, you'll break it." The room went quiet. My little brother, Michael, snickered, and I felt my cheeks burn. I stepped down, embarrassed, and sat quietly in the corner while they continued without me. It was a small moment, but it was a wound. And when you collect too many wounds, you eventually break. Still, I kept hope alive for Christmas. In my heart, I believed that maybe my father would notice me, maybe he'd buy me something special, or at least let me feel like part of the family. I even wrapped small gifts I bought with my babysitting money for my siblings, hoping they would smile when they opened them. But nothing prepared me for what he did on Christmas morning. After breakfast, my siblings were jumping around, asking, "Dad, when are we going shopping?" My father smiled at them, his eyes glowing in a way they never glowed for me. Then he turned to me and said, without emotion, "Emily, stay home. Watch the house." The word stabbed deeper than any knife. I wanted to scream, "Why? What did I do?" But my voice failed me. I felt invisible, like I didn't belong in my own family. And when the door slammed behind them, I knew something inside me had changed forever. The silence that filled the house was unbearable. I sat by the Christmas tree, staring at the gifts I had wrapped. My hands trembled, and I couldn't stop the tears. Outside, I heard children playing, families laughing, bells ringing, but inside, I was drowning in loneliness. Then, just when I thought the day couldn't get worse, something happened that shook me to my core. The front door creaked open. And that was when my nightmare truly began. The sound of the front door creaking open made my whole body stiffen. I wiped my tears quickly, thinking maybe my father had come back for me, maybe he had changed his mind. My heart leaped with hope as I whispered, "Dad?" But no one answered. The door slowly pushed wider, and the cold December wind blew into the living room. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break out of my chest. I stood up carefully, each step heavy with fear. "Hello?" I called again, but the silence felt louder than my voice. Then I saw it, muddy footprints on the carpet. My father and siblings had left in a car, so these were not theirs. Panic surged through me. Someone had just entered our home. I froze in place, torn between running upstairs to hide or rushing outside to scream for help. But before I could decide, a shadow appeared in the hallway. A tall figure in a dark hoodie stepped into the light, his face half hidden. My knees weakened. It wasn't my father. It wasn't anyone I knew. The man looked around quickly, his eyes landing on the Christmas tree, on the gifts, on me. For a second, our eyes locked, and a chill went down my spine. He whispered something under his breath, then took a step closer. Fear gripped me so tightly I couldn't breathe. I wanted to shout, to call 911, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. I could only clutch my hands together, praying silently that this was a dream. The man's gaze turned sharp, and he muttered, "Didn't think anyone would be here." My whole body trembled. I realized then, he wasn't here by mistake. He had come for something. And I was the only one in the house. Let me pause for a second. My name is Emily, I'm 16 years old, and I'm sharing this story from Chicago, Illinois. If you're just joining this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the shocking turns of what happened to me. Also, tell me in the comments, what part of the country are you watching this from? Now, back to the moment that changed everything. I stepped backward slowly, trying not to make sudden movements. The man's eyes scanned the room, then he smirked. "Looks like your family left you all alone. That's too bad." His voice was low, unsettling. He started walking toward the tree, and I could hear my own heartbeat louder than his footsteps. I whispered, almost to myself, "Please don't hurt me." He ignored me, kneeling down near the presents. My carefully wrapped gifts looked so small under his rough hands as he started tearing through them. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. It felt like my whole body was nailed to the floor. Then suddenly, he turned back to me, his eyes cold. "Where's the money? Jewelry? Anything valuable?" I shook my head quickly. "I don't know. Please, my dad, he'll be back soon." But that was a lie, and he knew it. A cruel smile spread across his face. "No, he won't. Not for hours." At that moment, I realized I was truly alone with him. The world around me spun. My Christmas had already been shattered by my father's rejection, but now, it was turning into something far darker. And then, just as I thought he was about to grab me, we both froze. Because there was another sound. A loud knock at the door. The man's head snapped toward it, his eyes narrowing. I didn't know who it was, but I knew this: whoever was standing at that door was about to change everything. The knocking grew louder. 3 hard, impatient bangs that echoed through the house. My heart leaped, torn between fear and hope. Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe someone had seen the strange man enter and had come to check. The intruder's face darkened. He whispered angrily, "Don't you dare say a word." Then he grabbed my wrist so hard I almost screamed. His grip was like iron, and my skin burned under his rough fingers. I trembled. The knock came again, sharper this time. "Emily? You home?" I froze. I knew that voice. It was Mrs. Parker, our elderly neighbor. She often brought cookies during the holidays and checked in whenever Dad wasn't around. Relief rushed through me, but the man's grip tightened. He leaned close to my ear and hissed, "If you make a sound, she'll regret it." Tears blurred my eyes. I wanted to scream for Mrs. Parker, to beg her not to leave, but my throat was locked by fear. The knock turned into a rattle on the doorknob. "Emily? Sweetheart, I thought I saw your dad leave. Are you okay?" The man dragged me back behind the Christmas tree, pressing me down so I couldn't be seen. I bit my lip to keep from crying out as the pine needles scratched my arms. He whispered again, this time colder. You let her walk away, or she won't be the only one hurt. I shook my head desperately, trying to plead with my eyes. Mrs. Parker stood just outside, so close, and yet so far. Finally, after a moment that felt like forever, she sighed. All right, maybe you're asleep. I'll check later. Her footsteps faded down the porch. The sound of her door closing across the street was like the final nail in my coffin. The man smirked, looking down at me. See how easy that was? Nobody's coming to save you. My body shook uncontrollably, fear and rage mixing inside me. All I could think was how unfair it was. My father had left me behind like trash, and now I was trapped with a stranger in my own home. The man stood up, pacing the room. We'll wait. Your dad must keep something valuable here. When he comes back, you're going to help me. I didn't answer. My hands curled into fists, nails digging into my skin. Inside me, something was shifting. The helpless girl who had cried alone by the tree was beginning to feel something else, anger. But before I could think further, another sound pierced the air. The front door rattled again, but this time, it wasn't gentle knocking. It was the sound of keys in the lock. The man's head snapped up, his eyes wild. He whispered harshly, "Who has a key?" My blood froze. Only one person could be opening that door, my father. And as the door creaked open, the man grabbed me by the arm and yanked me up, pulling me close like a shield. The last thing I heard before my father stepped inside was the man whispering in my ear, "One wrong move, and Christmas ends for you tonight." The door swung open, and there he was, my father, carrying shopping bags with my siblings trailing behind him. Their laughter filled the air, and for a brief second, the house felt alive again. But the moment his eyes lifted and landed on me, on the stranger clutching me tightly, everything shattered. The bag slipped from his hands, gifts spilling across the floor. My little brother Michael froze mid-step, his smile fading into shock. My sisters clung to each other, their voices hushed. "Dad!" I cried out, my voice breaking, but the man pressed something cold and sharp against my side. I gasped as I realized, it was a knife. Not a word, the man hissed in my ear. My father's face twisted with fury and confusion. "Who the hell are you? Let her go." His voice boomed through the house, strong and commanding. For a second, I thought he might actually save me. But the intruder only laughed, a chilling sound that made my heart race faster. "You left her alone, didn't you? You left your own daughter on Christmas Day." "That's how I found her, all alone, waiting like a gift for me to unwrap." Those words cut deeper than the knife ever could. My siblings looked at me, their eyes wide, guilt flickering in their faces. My father's jaw tightened, but I saw it, hesitation. "Please," I whispered, looking at him, begging him to do something. The man shoved me forward slightly, keeping the knife close. "You're going to give me what I want. Jewelry, money, whatever you've got hidden. Or," he pressed the blade tighter against my ribs, making me flinch, "your daughter bleeds on your floor tonight." The room went silent, except for the Christmas lights buzzing faintly. My siblings began to cry softly. My father clenched his fists, but he didn't move. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in what felt like years. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. He wasn't just scared for me. He was calculating. Would he choose to protect me, the daughter he had pushed aside, or protect his other children standing behind him? The intruder's voice grew harsher. "I'm not asking again. Get the valuables, now." My father finally nodded, his voice low. "Fine. Just, don't hurt her." He backed toward the hallway, toward his room where he kept his safe. I held my breath. My father had always treated me like I was less, but this was different. This was the moment where his true heart would show. And then, as he disappeared down the hall, the man tightened his grip on me again. "You better hope Daddy cares enough to come back." I wanted to believe he would. I wanted to believe, just once, that he would fight for me. But deep down, I wasn't sure. The next sound that filled the air was the click of the safe opening in my father's room. And with that sound came the most terrifying thought of all: what if my father gave this stranger everything and still didn't come back for me? The metallic click of the safe opening echoed down the hall, each second stretching like a lifetime. My heart beat so hard I could feel it in my throat. The man holding me smirked, pressing the knife tighter, as though my father's hesitation was a game to him. "See? He's already giving in," the intruder whispered in my ear. "But let's see if he values you as much as his money." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My siblings huddled together in the corner, whispering prayers. Their eyes darted between me and the hallway, as though they too weren't sure what Dad would choose. Finally, my father appeared again. In his hands was a small black box stuffed with jewelry and cash. He placed it slowly on the floor, his face grim. "Take it. Just let her go." The man laughed, shaking his head. "Do you think I'm stupid? You'll call the cops the second I walk out that door." No, you're all going to stay right here until I'm ready." He kicked the box toward himself, never loosening his grip on me. I winced as the knife pricked against my side again. "Dad, please," I whimpered, my voice breaking. My eyes locked on him, searching desperately for something: anger, courage, love, anything. But instead, he froze. His face was pale, his hands trembling, but he didn't move toward me. He didn't rush forward like the heroes in the movies. He just stood there, rooted, like he didn't know if I was worth the risk. That realization hurt worse than the knife. The man knelt quickly, dragging me with him as he scooped the box up. My father's eyes twitched, his fists clenched, but still, nothing. The intruder stuffed some jewelry into his pockets, then looked back at my father. "You know, you're a terrible man. Leaving this girl alone, treating her like trash. If she were mine, I wouldn't waste her like you did." His words burned inside me. For once, someone else saw what I had always felt, but hearing it come from a criminal's mouth made it all the more painful. My father's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. He just stared at me, then at the knife against my ribs. His silence screamed louder than any words. Then the intruder's eyes flicked toward the Christmas tree. He tilted his head, grinning. "Pretty decorations. Shame if something ruined the holiday spirit." Before I could process his meaning, he used his free hand to shove the tree violently. It toppled over, ornaments shattering across the floor, lights snapping and sparking. I gasped as sharp glass shards scattered at my feet. My siblings cried out, clutching each other. The glowing magic of Christmas was gone, replaced by chaos, fear, and broken pieces. The man laughed, his voice echoing through the destroyed room. "Merry Christmas, huh?" And then, he turned his head sharply toward me. His grip tightened again. "Now, sweetheart, you're going to show me the rest of the house. Every room. Every hiding place. And if you don't," he pressed the knife so close I felt it sting, "then your Christmas ends right here." My legs shook. My father opened his mouth, finally about to speak, but the man yanked me toward the hallway before he could say a word. And just like that, I was dragged away from the living room, away from my siblings, away from the last shred of safety I thought I had left. The lights flickered, the air grew colder, and deep down I knew, something even worse was waiting in the shadows of that hallway. The hallway was darker than I remembered. The man's hand dug into my arm as he dragged me forward, the knife still pressed against my ribs. My feet shuffled across the carpet, my legs weak, but I forced myself to move. Every step I took deeper into the house felt like walking into a nightmare. "Show me where the good stuff is," he ordered, his breath hot against my ear. My voice shook. There isn't anything else. You already took it." He yanked my arm so hard I cried out. "Don't lie to me. A man like your father? He's hiding more." "Where?" My mind raced. I knew about the safe, everyone in the family did, But what if there really was more? What if Dad had another hiding spot I didn't know about? The thought made my stomach twist. We reached the first door, my father's bedroom. The man shoved me inside. The bed was neatly made, but the drawers were already half open from when Dad had grabbed the jewelry box. The man scanned the room quickly, his eyes narrowing. "Check it," he barked. I don't know what you're looking for." My voice cracked. He shoved me toward the dresser. "Look." With trembling hands, I opened the drawers, finding only clothes. He cursed under his breath, then stormed toward the closet. The house creaked, and suddenly, I heard faint voices from the living room, my siblings crying, my father's low murmur trying to calm them. The sound made my chest ache. But then I froze. Because underneath their voices, there was something else. A faint buzzing sound. The man paused too, frowning. "What's that?" I knew instantly. It was the landline phone we kept in the kitchen. Someone was calling. The man's eyes narrowed. He looked at me sharply. "Don't move." Then he shoved me down onto the bed and stormed toward the hallway. I sat frozen, my hands trembling against the sheets. My heart begged me to run, to scream, to do something. But fear pinned me in place. Then, for the first time since this nightmare began, my thoughts shifted. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as I thought. I glanced at the closet door. Behind it was a small metal box where my mother had once kept letters and keepsakes. Nobody had touched it in years. But I remembered something else, she had kept pepper spray inside it for protection. My pulse quickened. Could it still be there? I slipped quietly off the bed, tiptoeing toward the closet. Every creak of the floorboards felt like thunder in my ears. My hand shook as I reached for the box. And then, the man's footsteps thundered back down the hallway. I froze, the box halfway open. My heart raced as the door swung open violently, and he stood there, eyes blazing. "You were trying something, weren't you?" His voice was a low growl. He stormed toward me, his knife glinting under the dim light. And just as he raised his hand, a shout erupted from the living room. My father's voice, loud and furious, "Get away from her." For the first time, my father's tone carried fire. The man spun around, snarling, and I realized in that split second, something was about to explode between them. "Get away from her." My father's voice thundered from the hallway, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw rage in his eyes, not at me, but at the man threatening me. The intruder spun around, his knife gleaming under the dim light. He yanked me by the arm, pulling me in front of him like a shield. "One step closer and she bleeds," he barked, pressing the blade harder against my ribs. I winced, biting back a cry. My father froze, his fists clenched, his chest rising and falling like a storm was brewing inside him. "Dad," I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. "Please," my siblings' voices carried faintly from the living room. "Daddy," they cried, terrified. The sound fueled my father's anger, but I saw hesitation in his eyes. He had to choose between charging forward or risking me getting hurt. The man smirked. "You think you scare me? I've taken bigger men down than you. Now, back off." But my father didn't back off. He took one step closer, his voice lower, steadier. "Let her go. Take whatever you want. Just don't touch my daughter again." Those words hit me like lightning. My daughter. For so long I had felt invisible to him, unwanted, but in that moment, I heard something I hadn't in years: ownership, protection, something almost like love. The intruder laughed bitterly. "Oh, now she's your daughter? Funny. She told me you left her all alone on Christmas. What kind of father does that?" My father's face darkened. He glanced at me, guilt flickering in his eyes, then back at the man. His jaw tightened. "That was my mistake. But I won't make another." The man hissed and shoved me backward, forcing me closer to the wall. My back hit the wooden panel hard, and I winced. He raised the knife higher, as if daring my father to move. And then, everything exploded. My father lunged forward, faster than I thought possible. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisting it hard. The knife clattered to the floor, sliding under the bed. The intruder snarled, slamming his fist into my father's side. My father grunted but didn't let go. I stumbled out of the way, gasping, my hands shaking. For the first time, I saw my father fight, not with words, not with anger directed at me, but with real strength to protect me. They struggled violently, crashing into the dresser. Drawers flew open, clothes spilling everywhere. My father slammed the man against the wall, his teeth clenched. "You picked the wrong house." The intruder kicked back, sending my father stumbling. My father caught himself on the edge of the bed, breathing hard. The man lunged for the knife under the bed, but before he could reach it, I moved. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be helpless anymore. I dove to the floor, my fingers closing around the cold metal first. My hands trembled as I held it, but I didn't let go. The intruder froze, his eyes widening. My father turned toward me, shock flashing in his face. For the first time in my life, both men were looking at me, not as a burden, not as invisible, but as the one holding the power. The man sneered. "You wouldn't dare." And in that tense silence, with the knife trembling in my hands, I realized, he might be right. Could I really do it? Could I protect myself, my siblings, even my father? The weight of that choice pressed down on me like never before. And then, behind us, another sound shattered the standoff. The unmistakable wail of police sirens outside. The man's face twisted in panic. My father's eyes widened in disbelief. And me? My grip on the knife tightened. Because now, everything was about to change. The police sirens grew louder, their red and blue lights flashing through the curtains. My chest rose and fell quickly, my hands still trembling as I held the knife. The intruder's eyes darted wildly toward the window, then back at me, then at my father. "Did you call them?" he snarled. My father shook his head, still breathing heavily from the fight. "No. But thank God they're here." The man cursed under his breath. He grabbed me by the wrist again, yanking me close. I gasped, the knife nearly slipping from my hand. His voice was harsh, desperate. "If they come in here, I'll take her with me. You hear me? She's my ticket out." My siblings screamed from the living room, their cries echoing like a chorus of fear. "Emily," they shouted. "Stay back," my father roared, his arms stretched out, trying to keep the man's focus on him. Then came the pounding at the front door. "Police! Open up!" The intruder's grip on me tightened, his nails digging into my skin. I could feel his panic rising, and that made him more dangerous. He dragged me backward toward the hallway, his eyes scanning for an escape route. "You're coming with me, girl," he hissed. One wrong sound, and I swear. But before he could finish, I made a choice. My body moved before my fear could stop me. With all the strength I had, I rammed my elbow into his ribs. He grunted in pain, loosening his grip for a split second. "Dad!" I screamed. That was all my father needed. He lunged forward, slamming into the man and knocking him off balance. The knife flew out of my hands, skidding across the floor. The man roared, shoving my father back again. They struggled violently, crashing into the hallway wall. Picture frames shattered, glass scattering across the floor. My siblings shrieked from the living room. The police pounded harder. "Last warning. Open the door." I scrambled to my feet, running toward the front door. My fingers shook as I fumbled with the lock. The moment I yanked it open, 2 officers stormed inside, weapons drawn. "Drop him. Hands where we can see them," one shouted. The intruder froze, his chest heaving, his eyes darting between the officers and the open window in the kitchen. My father staggered back, sweat dripping down his face. But instead of surrendering, the man bolted. In one swift motion, he shoved past the officers, knocking one to the ground, and sprinted toward the back of the house. The other officer chased after him, yelling commands. I stood frozen at the doorway, my body shaking from head to toe. The house was chaos, sirens outside, kids crying, broken ornaments and glass littering the floor, my father gasping for breath. And in the middle of it all, I felt something strange. Relief that I was alive. But also, emptiness. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. The man had escaped. He knew our faces, our house, our weakness. And something in my gut told me, he was going to come back. The flashing red and blue lights outside painted the walls of our house in shadows. My siblings huddled together on the couch, their eyes wide and wet with tears. The ornaments on the floor crunched beneath the boots of the officers as they searched the house. My father sat in a chair, his face pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. I stood near the Christmas tree, or what was left of it. Its branches lay twisted, ornaments shattered, wires sparking faintly. It looked exactly how I felt inside, broken. One of the officers, a tall man with sharp eyes, came over to me. "You're safe now, sweetheart. He's gone." But I shook my head slowly. My voice was barely a whisper. "No. He's not gone. He'll come back." The officer gave me a kind but tired smile. "We'll patrol the area. Don't worry." He walked away, but his words didn't comfort me. They felt empty, like wrapping paper with nothing inside. My father rubbed his temples, muttering under his breath. Finally, he looked at me, really looked at me. His voice was rough, almost ashamed. "Emily. I'm sorry." Those two words hit me harder than anything. My father never said sorry. Not to me. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could speak, one of the officers returned from the kitchen. "We found footprints out back. He ran into the woods. But we'll catch him. It's only a matter of time." My stomach tightened. I wanted to believe them, but my gut told me otherwise. That man wasn't just going to disappear. He had seen too much, our faces, our house, our weaknesses. The officers eventually left, leaving us in the silence of a broken Christmas night. My siblings slowly drifted off to sleep in the living room, clutching each other like lifelines. My father sat alone at the dining table, staring at nothing. I tried to rest in my room, but sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every shadow felt like him. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. The house was still, too still. And then, it happened. A faint tapping at my window. My breath caught in my throat. I sat up in bed, frozen, my heart slamming against my ribs. The tapping came again, slow, deliberate. I crawled toward the window, my hands shaking, and pulled the curtain back just a little. And there he was. The intruder. Standing in the snow outside my window, his hood pulled low, his face twisted into a smile. He raised his finger to his lips, signaling for me to stay quiet. My entire body turned cold. This nightmare wasn't over. It was only beginning. The sight of him outside my window froze my blood. His dark figure stood still in the snow, his breath fogging the glass, his smile chilling me to the core. He pressed his finger to his lips again, silently commanding me not to scream. But my throat betrayed me, I couldn't make a sound even if I tried. My body locked in terror. He tilted his head slowly, almost playfully, then raised his hand. Something glinted in his grip. At first, I thought it was the knife again. But no, this was different. A small object, shiny under the moonlight. A key. My stomach dropped. He had stolen a copy of our house key. I stumbled back from the window, my chest heaving. "No, no, no," I whispered to myself. Then came the faint, unmistakable sound from downstairs, the back door creaking open. He was inside. I bolted from my room, my heart racing louder than my footsteps. "Dad." I screamed, my voice breaking the silence. My father jolted awake from the dining table, his chair scraping the floor. My siblings stirred in the living room, their sleepy voices mixing with panic. "He's back!" I shouted. Before my father could respond, the intruder's voice echoed from the darkness downstairs. "Calm." Taunting. "Did you really think it would be that easy to get rid of me?" My siblings shrieked, clinging to each other. My father rushed toward the hallway, his face pale but his eyes blazing. "Get the kids upstairs," he barked at me. I nodded quickly, herding my brothers and sisters up the staircase as their cries filled the air. Behind me, I saw my father grab a heavy lamp from the table, gripping it like a weapon. The intruder's footsteps grew louder as he moved through the house. "You called the cops," he sneered. "You embarrassed me. Now you'll pay for it." We made it to the top of the stairs, but my legs shook so badly I nearly collapsed. I ushered my siblings into my room, slamming the door shut behind us. The youngest, Sarah, sobbed into my shoulder. "Emily, I'm scared." My voice trembled, but I tried to sound strong. "I won't let him hurt you. I promise." But outside the door, chaos exploded. A crash. A grunt. The sound of wood splintering. My father and the intruder were fighting again, but this time, the man was angrier, more desperate. Every thud made my heart jump. Every silence made me fear the worst. Then came a blood-curdling shout from downstairs, my father's voice. "Emily, run!" Before I could move, the heavy sound of footsteps pounded toward the stairs. The intruder was coming up. And this time, I knew, he wasn't leaving without someone. The footsteps thudded heavier and closer, climbing each step like a drumbeat of doom. My siblings clung to me, their small hands digging into my arms, their sobs muffled against my shirt. My own breath came in shallow gasps as I stared at the door, waiting for it to burst open. The intruder's voice slithered up the staircase, low and mocking. "Emily, oh, sweet Emily. You can't hide from me." My whole body shivered. How did he even know my name? The door handle rattled. My siblings screamed. I pressed them behind me, my eyes darting around the room for anything that could serve as protection. My gaze landed on a broken piece of wood from the fallen shelf. My hand shook as I picked it up, gripping it like a bat. Then, with a loud crack, the door flew open. He stood there, filling the frame, his hood shadowing his face, the stolen key dangling from his hand like a cruel prize. Behind him, I could hear the muffled groans of my father downstairs. "Please," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Leave us alone." But he only stepped closer, his grin widening. "I didn't come all this way for no." He lunged toward me. My siblings screamed louder, covering their faces. I swung the wooden piece with all my strength, the air cracking with the force. It hit his arm, and he howled in pain, dropping the key. "You little," he snarled, clutching his arm. For a moment, I thought I'd bought us time. But then his other hand shot out, grabbing my wrist in a grip so tight I thought my bones would snap. He yanked me forward, his face inches from mine, his breath hot and foul. "You're coming with me." "No." I screamed, struggling against him. My siblings tried pulling me back, their little hands grabbing my clothes, but the man was too strong. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the chaos. Heavy boots. Multiple voices shouting from downstairs. "Police! Freeze!" The intruder's eyes widened. He spun toward the door, dragging me with him. But before he could move another step, 2 officers rushed up the stairs, their flashlights blinding us both. "Let her go," one of them barked, their guns drawn. The intruder tightened his grip on me, using me as a shield. My chest heaved, tears streaming down my face. "Back off," he roared. "Or she dies." The room froze in that moment. My siblings whimpered. The officers steadied their aim. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. And then, just when I thought this was the end, my father appeared behind the intruder, staggering but alive. Blood trickled from his forehead, but his eyes burned with fury. Without warning, he raised the broken lamp base he still held and brought it down on the man's head. The intruder cried out, his grip loosening on me. I stumbled free just as the officers tackled him to the ground, handcuffing him with practiced speed. It was over. Or so I thought. Because as they dragged him past me, he lifted his head, blood dripping down his face, and whispered so only I could hear. "This isn't the end, Emily. I'll find you again." His words cut through me like ice. Even in chains, even surrounded by police, he still held a power over me that made my knees shake. And deep down, a terrifying thought grew inside me, what if he was right? Even after the intruder was dragged out of the house, his words clung to me like smoke, "This isn't the end, Emily. I'll find you again." That night, none of us slept. The police stayed for hours, taking statements, photographing the damage, and promising us that the man would be locked away for a very long time. My father sat slumped on the couch, an ice pack pressed to his swollen forehead, while my siblings huddled around me like frightened chicks. When the house was finally quiet again, the weight of everything hit me. My body shook uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop crying. The sound of the door crashing open, his face at my window, his hands on my wrist, it replayed in my head over and over like a broken record. The next morning, neighbors gathered outside our house, whispering behind gloved hands as police cars lined the street. Some brought cookies or warm meals, trying to comfort us, but nothing tasted right. Nothing felt safe. Days passed. Christmas came and went, though it felt like a holiday stolen from us. My siblings tried to play with their toys, but every creak of the floor made them jump. My father barely spoke, his guilt heavy in the silence. One afternoon, I overheard two officers speaking quietly outside the house. "The guy's dangerous," one said. "He's done this before, breaking into homes, tormenting families. But he never went this far." The other officer shook his head. "Yeah. He's clever too. Don't be surprised if he finds a way out someday." The words made my heart freeze. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every shadow looked like him. Every gust of wind against the window sounded like tapping. I told myself he was behind bars, but the fear gnawed at me. What if he escaped? What if his promise was real? A week later, something happened that made my fear spike to a new level. A letter arrived in the mail. No return address. No stamps. Just my name scrawled across the envelope in messy handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. 3 words, written in red ink. "I see you." I dropped the letter as if it burned me. My chest tightened, my vision blurred. How could he have sent this if he was locked up? I ran to my father, shoving the paper into his hands. His face turned pale, his jaw tightening as he read the words. This can't be," he muttered. "They told me he was in jail." But deep down, I already knew. The nightmare wasn't over. It was starting all over again. And this time, I feared he wouldn't just come for me, he'd come for all of us. The letter lay on the table like a curse. The words "I see you" glared back at me, taunting me, reminding me of the intruder's whispered promise. My siblings sat nearby, their eyes darting nervously between me and my father, too scared to even ask what was going on. My father's hand shook as he picked up the paper again. "Emily," he said quietly, "don't tell the others what it says. They're already terrified." But Sarah, the youngest, tugged at my sleeve. "Did he write to us?" she asked, her voice trembling. I forced a smile, though my stomach churned. "No, sweetie. It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. That night, my father called the police again. 2 officers came and examined the letter, their faces darkening. "It's his handwriting," one officer confirmed. "No doubt about it." "But how?" my father snapped. "You said he was locked up." The officers exchanged an uneasy glance. Finally, one sighed. He is. Or at least, he should be. But we can't ignore the possibility that he has someone on the outside helping him. The idea chilled me to the bone. Someone else? Watching us? Delivering his threats? After the officers left, I couldn't stop pacing the living room. Every time I looked at the window, I felt eyes staring back. Every time I walked past the door, I imagined him standing on the other side. Days passed. More letters arrived. Short messages, always in red ink. Soon. Don't sleep. I never forget. Each one tightened the knot of fear in my chest. My siblings grew quieter, barely playing anymore. My father started sitting by the window all night, a baseball bat by his side, his eyes bloodshot and haunted. One evening, as I helped Sarah with her homework, the phone rang. My father answered. At first, I thought it was another neighbor checking on us. But then, I heard his voice change, low, sharp, filled with rage. Don't you dare call this house again, he barked, slamming the phone down so hard it rattled the table. I stared at him. Was it him? My father didn't answer right away. He rubbed his face, his shoulders trembling. Finally, he looked at me and whispered, yes. His voice. It was him. My heart dropped. If he was in prison, how was he calling us? That night, sleep was impossible. I kept my siblings close, the letter tucked under my pillow like proof of the nightmare we were living. Hours passed in silence. And then, at exactly 2:13 a.m., a sharp knock echoed at the front door. 3 times. Slow. Deliberate. My father shot up from his chair, grabbing the bat. I froze in place, my siblings whimpering behind me. Another knock followed. Louder. I swallowed hard, my body trembling, my mind screaming one question over and over. Was it really him, standing outside our house again? The sound of the knocks filled the house like thunder. 3 slow, deliberate raps on the front door. Then silence. The kind of silence that makes your heart pound so hard you can hear it in your ears. My father gripped the baseball bat tighter, his knuckles white. He motioned for me to stay back, but my legs wouldn't move. My siblings were huddled together on the couch, Sarah crying softly into a blanket. Another knock. This time louder. More impatient. Who is it? My father shouted, his voice cracking just slightly. No answer. He edged toward the door, the bat raised, his every step heavy with tension. I crept behind him despite his earlier warning, my heart hammering against my ribs. Stay back, Emily, he hissed. I shook my head. I can't. He pressed his eye to the peephole. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his shoulders stiffened. He turned to me, his face pale. It's an officer. Relief flooded me for half a second before my instincts screamed. Something felt wrong. Why would an officer be knocking like that at 2:13 a.m.? My father opened the door slowly. A man stood on the porch, dressed in a police uniform. His hat was low, shadowing his face. He held a clipboard under one arm. Evening, he said, his voice calm but somehow off. I need to ask you a few questions about the suspect you reported last month. My father hesitated. At this hour? The man smiled thinly. It's urgent. Mind if I step inside? My stomach clenched. Something about him, his posture, his tone, set off alarms inside me. Dad, I whispered, tugging his sleeve. But before my father could respond, the man looked up. The porch light caught his face, and my blood turned to ice. It wasn't a police officer. It was him. The intruder. In a stolen uniform. He shoved the door open with his shoulder, knocking my father back. The clipboard clattered to the floor as he pulled a small knife from inside his jacket, his smile twisting into something monstrous. Miss me? He hissed. I screamed. My siblings shrieked from the couch. My father swung the bat, but the intruder ducked, slashing at him with the knife. The blade missed by inches, cutting through my father's shirt. "Run," my father roared at me. "Get the kids upstairs now." I grabbed Sarah and the others, dragging them toward the stairs as chaos erupted behind us. My father and the intruder crashed into the dining table, dishes shattering, chairs flying. Halfway up the stairs, I looked back just in time to see the intruder knock the bat from my father's hands. The knife flashed in the dim light. I didn't think. I just acted. I grabbed a heavy glass vase from the side table and hurled it with all my strength. It smashed into the intruder's shoulder, sending him stumbling. "Go," my father shouted again, lunging for the bat. We scrambled into my room, slamming the door. My siblings sobbed as I shoved the dresser against it, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. From downstairs came the sounds of grunts, furniture breaking, and the intruder's furious shouts. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. Too quiet. I pressed my ear to the door, my breath shaky. "Dad?" I whispered. No answer. Then a voice came from just outside, low and mocking. "Emily." The intruder was on the stairs. Coming for us. And this time, I knew it wasn't just a threat. This was life or death. The sound of his boots creaking on the staircase sent chills down my spine. Every step was slow, deliberate, like he wanted us to feel the terror of waiting. My siblings whimpered behind me, clutching each other, their tears soaking through their pajamas. I pressed my hands against the dresser blocking the door, though I knew deep down it wouldn't hold him for long. My whole body shook, but I whispered anyway, trying to sound braver than I felt. "You won't win. Not this time." A low laugh slipped through the crack of the door. "Emily, you're stronger than I thought. But I promised you, didn't I? This isn't the end." He slammed into the door. The wood rattled, the dresser shuddered. Sarah screamed. Another slam followed, harder this time, splintering the frame. "Stay back," I cried, though my voice cracked. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crack rang out through the house. Not the sound of wood breaking. Something sharper. Louder. A gunshot. The banging stopped. Silence filled the air. I held my breath, my hands frozen on the dresser. Then came the heavy sound of a body collapsing on the stairs. I hesitated only a moment before slowly pushing the dresser aside. My siblings clung to me, begging me not to open the door, but I had to know. I pulled it open just a crack, and my heart nearly stopped. The intruder lay sprawled on the stairs, blood staining his stolen uniform. His knife clattered uselessly beside him. And at the bottom of the staircase stood my father, a smoking gun in his trembling hands. His chest rose and fell like he'd just run miles, his eyes wide with shock at what he'd done. I rushed to him, my siblings following close behind. "Dad, are you okay?" He looked at me, his face pale but determined. "It's over, Emily. He won't hurt you again." For the first time in weeks, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I hugged my father tightly, my siblings piling into the embrace. For once, we felt safe. The police arrived minutes later, alerted by neighbors who had heard the gunshot. They carried the intruder's lifeless body away, their voices calm and professional. But I couldn't stop staring at him as they covered his face. Even in death, it felt like his eyes were still watching me. As dawn broke over the snow-covered street, the officers assured us we were safe, truly safe this time. My father was shaken, but he stood tall, finally showing us the protector he had always promised to be. That Christmas, our house was broken, our hearts scarred, but we learned something no gift could ever teach: family is stronger when it stands together. And no matter how dark the night, love will always be the light that drives fear away. Viewers, this is Emily from Ohio, and thank you for staying with me through this journey. If you've watched this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what part of the country are you watching from? I'd love to know. Because this was my story. A story of fear, survival, and the power of family. And though my scars remain, I stand stronger than ever, because I faced the darkness, and I lived to tell it.